Hello, Rachel. Welcome to Wear Your Crown.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming back. Full transparency, Rachel and I recorded a whole episode, and the technology was doing its thing, and it was echoey and couldn't hear anything, but I just wanted to make sure that people could hear your story because it's so cool and unique. So I appreciate you coming back and talking with me, and I can't wait to hear more and hear
Thank
what
you.
else we'll talk about. Yeah, of course. So, off the bat, who is Rachel? I
hmm
know you, but if somebody's listening to this doesn't know who you are,
hmm
who's Rachel?
Yeah, I'm an artist, singer, dancer, actor, and believer. I'm currently living in Chicago, Illinois, but I am making the move to New York City at the end of June. I'm very excited. Yeah, I can't wait. My whole story definitely revolves around Jesus and how good he's been to me and the ways that he has rescued me from myself at times. And I love fun. I also love rest. And I love artsy things and artsy people, and I love connecting with people. So, yeah, those that is an insight into Rachel Caffey.
I love it. When you say arts, what does
hmm
that mean? Is that singing, dancing? What kind of is your art?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of different arts growing up. I think I was always artistic and had different outlets. So in high school, I did more visual arts, like a little more seriously than I do now. I just do it for fun, like as needed for the soul. But I appreciate the visual arts. I am not as involved in that space now, but I do performing arts, so singing, dancing, acting, and yeah, I've been taking more dancing classes as of late and been seeing myself grow in that, and it has been feeding my soul in more ways than one. And I'm definitely not the best dancer in the class, but I have really learned a lot for myself, from other people, and just really embrace the community there. So, yeah.
Is dance something you always did growing up, or was it a more let's try this out now thing?
Yeah, I danced in high school because I wanted to do it for I like knew at a very young age. I was like, "Oh, I want to do musical theater." So, I started taking classes in I think it was in high school that I started taking classes. I was like 14. So, started dancing then. Definitely wasn't like the best dancer, but I took like a musical theater class. Or it was like a jazz class, more musical theater, jazz, tap, ballet, those kinds of things. Was even on point for a little bit, but not anymore. That's,
All right, a time.
yeah. It could be for a season.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, and then did some of it in college, like some dance, but I studied musical theater voice specifically. So
Okay.
after college, I took kind of a break from theater for a little bit, and then I was going through like vocal trouble with my voice, and then regained my voice again. It was like a spiritual, mental thing that was going on, and then came back to dance like at the end of last year coming into this year, or maybe it was the beginning of this year, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been really good. I think I'm dancing probably better than I ever had in the past. I think there's a lot of resilience learned and failing, like failing, learning, failing again, but failing better, you know?
Yeah. Is it, do you focus on one type of dance or do you do everything?
I would love to do all dances. I am not as good at like modern dance or like hip hop,
Mm.
but I've taken hip hop
Yeah.
classes before. There was it was a contemporary class. I definitely think it was intermediate to advanced, and I took this class not really knowing what the structure was like or anything like that, but we had to do a lot of like improv warm ups across the floor, which was really interesting. I'd never done it before. It was
Mm.
very out of my comfort zone. I was like, I'm not used to, I've never improv danced before, really. I've done it in my apartment,
Yeah.
but that's pretty much it. And then you have to improv with a partner where your body like connects on a certain like point on the body and move like across the floor, and it's insane. And
That's
that's a warm
intense.
up. It's a warm up. I'm like,
Yeah.
so, and those dancers were definitely more skilled than I was at the time, and they're still way more like at a different level than I am. But it was really cool to like learn and try it a different way, and just be like, I am not good at this. Like being bad at something at a beginning level and knowing that I can only go up from there was, it was a hard thing to experience again, but I think it's really good for our brains as humans to like experience hard things and learn and grow. It really expands the mind, and the spiritual practice of it all is really cool. So yeah, I think it was really well needed at the time. I haven't gone back yet to that class, but I imagine I will. But mostly I do like musical theater, jazz, musical theater, or jazz. And then could do tap, but I mostly do ballet and those other musical theater classes right now, just because it's what I'm focused on. But I think with Broadway, there's so many contemporary influences that I think it's important to take all classes. So I'm looking at like different styles, and the studios that I'll be taking class from in New York have a myriad of different styles, so I will definitely be taking from all sorts of different teachers. So I'm really excited, but I needed to get back into class just to get like the basics down, and just to be like, okay, this is a pirouette. This is, I mean, I know what those things are, but to like know it in your body and to like reset is a very different thing after you've been out of dance for a while. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I know you were born and raised in Arkansas, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And you've been living in Chicago and you're moving to New York. I was wondering, what has that transition kind of looked like? I know you're still kind of in the middle of the transition in New York part, from being a creative in Arkansas versus Chicago versus New York, because I'm sure they're very different scales, very different people, places, opportunities. So what does that difference look like for you?
Yeah, they're very different spaces. I haven't quite been in the New York scene really at all yet, so I've only heard stuff from people that either I've interviewed or talked to. So don't quite know yet, truly, but I am very excited to be in that space and with those artists. It's going to be a very special thing. Arkansas was, I mean, it was a very limited community. We only had so many theaters. We did have a professional theater, which was great. There was some training for young actors growing up. I just wanted to do as much theater as possible. When I fell in love with theater and got bitten by the bug, per se, I just like couldn't get enough of it. I was like, I love this. I get to sing. I get to move my body. I get to express myself. I get to tell a story. It was like all these components that I grew up with as a child that I really loved. Like my mom used to read us stories and like just like books or things like that. She was very involved in my brother and I's upbringing, because she was a stay-at-home mom. That was her job when we were little. And so yeah, she just was very involved with us, and like a big storyteller and creative person she is. And so I think she cultivated that in me. And then also she was always listening to musicals on soundtracks and things like that. So that definitely influenced me to be attuned or like drawn to musical theater. And then just I think like the Venn diagram of like all those things like came into play, and just was like, yeah, it just felt really really good as a kid, just like being able to like, I can be loud and expressive and I can tell a story and like I can, yeah, all the things. And the Little Rock community is still flourishing as far as like theater goes. They still have quite a few different theaters and it's really fun to see from afar. It was very local, very community oriented, very small. But I did what I could. I was in like music band and Annie, and before before I left for college, I was in Into the Woods. It was like my first like big role. It was really fun. I was Cinderella. Yeah, it was great. And then came back and did theater for a little while, and then took a year off of school for like health problems, and then like went back to school. So yeah, those theater spaces, they're definitely smaller. Everybody knows everybody's business. When you're a teenager and you've got raging hormones and everybody's hooking up with each other, it's like you can't really escape the adults and the cast like gossiping about you. So there was a lot of that. So yeah. Anyway, so it was an interesting time. And then here in Chicago, it's very different. Like it's still small in a way, but big at the same time. It's a very tight knit community here. I have not yet broken into the theater community. I know people, and I know friends of mine and like peers have landed roles and been in shows and things like that, and I find it amazing, but there are just not enough auditions. I would say the frequency and the amount of auditions that we have here is probably close to the number that was had in Little Rock, Arkansas. Like it's just,
oh wow,
there's almost nothing at times. So I as part of the reason for moving to New York is I just wanted more auditions more frequently, just to get my face in the room. But also, I really wanted and really want this, auditions as an actor are a big teacher. Like, I think they can teach you a lot about your personal craft as an actor, because a lot of what you do before you book a show is individualized. Like, it's your own. You are a business, you are a brand, like you gotta cultivate those things and kind of know who you are. And some of that takes living, but it also like takes doing the thing. And I just haven't felt like there have been enough auditions for me here, either for my type or that I wanted to be in and things like that. So, because I wasn't going to give my time to something that either wasn't going to pay me well or wasn't something I was passionate about. So, so those are the ways that Chicago and Little Rock are very different and very similar at times. But I'm very excited about New York. I know it's more auditions, but it's more people as well. And so there's more competition. And then at the beginning of the year, I took on a lot of different auditions. I went to multiple like dance calls, singers calls, things like that. And I learned a lot. And I was like, oh, I could do this. I could do this over and over and over and over again. Just like going into auditions and learning and growing and being like, yep, I'm going to do that next audition, or nope, I'm not going to do that next audition, So, I think it's all, for me right now, it's just like all about building that confidence of repetition and getting those reps in and building that. So I'm very hopeful and very excited for New York.
I'm excited for you. What does the audition process kind of look like? Because I have no idea as someone who's never auditioned for anything.
It depends on what you're auditioning for. So the work that I mostly do is musical theater auditions or theater auditions. So these theaters will post an audition breakdown. And what that means is they'll list like, this is the show, these are the characters we're looking for, and they'll have like a little description, and it'll say like Mary, 20s to 30s, white woman, or any ethnicity, or she could be black, or she could be like Latino mixed, or like mixed or something like that. They can get as specific as they want. They can also like be as general as they want. And then they'll say something about like the character themselves, like maybe she's very bright and bushy-tailed and that often gets her into trouble and things like that. Or, you know, like she is the villain of the show but has some redeemable qualities or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't write these breakdowns. But they'll release a breakdown, basically. They'll say, like, this is how long the contract is, this is when the audition date is, this is where it is, blah, blah, blah. Preparing for the audition, I will look at those things and be like, okay, for this show, because it's this musical, this composer, I will look at these pieces, or... because I want this character out of this show, I want to show X, Y, and Z, or I want to, and it could be like a vocal quality, or it could be like storytelling, or it could be both. And so I will look at those things and like try to cross match like either what I have or what I want to learn if I want to put a new piece in my book just for the moment. And a book is basically, it's a binder.
Okay.
That has all your sheet music in it. It'll have a table of contents of like, this is what's in it. And the table of contents will say like the name of the piece and which page it's on and all that. And it'll have dividers and stuff like that. And then probably your headshot and resume in it as well. And normally I think for most people, those things like your book kind of stays the same. I like to learn new pieces. So mine, I change them out pretty frequently. But yeah, trying to refine your book is it's a tricky thing because you don't always I don't always know like what's going to be like the best thing for my book. I just know what I love to sing and what sounds good in my voice. But yeah, so so I pick a song and then I choose a cut of the music. So I will choose like, oh, I'm going to start at this point, and either the accompanist will play a little bit like, or they'll play the beginning part, and then I will come in on a certain note or whatever. And then I will like, it's basically you put brackets around the part that you're singing. And then I'll do some character work, like what do I want as this character? How am I going to get what I want? Like very like acting 101, those basics. And then with those basics in mind, maybe fill in some of the details, like if I am going to seduce this man because I want him to sleep with me, or I'm going to beg this person to, you know, sleep with me, or, you know, like all those little details you fill in. If it's something like that, you just fill it in with the song. Like maybe this section I'm begging, maybe this section I am seducing him, or something like that. And then with that character work that's done, then I just like practice, you know, I learn the music, and I have, you know, all the like, I don't know, the music theory practice under my belt and whatnot. So I learn the music, and then I will go into the audition and I'll sign my name on a list. I'm non-equity, so, well, I'm technically an EMC member, which means they no longer have this program. So it's back when you had to like earn your weeks to get into the union. Non-equity means you're not a part of the union. Equity means that you are a part of the union, so you get equitable pay, and you have a different contract and all this stuff. Because I am technically non-union, I would sign up with everybody else. If you are equity and a part of the union, they give you a time slot. Nowadays, they don't have you can't earn your way into the union now. Now you can just pay to be in the union. So it's kind of like a pay-to-play thing. It's a little icky, in my opinion. But it does provide some advantages. Like if you don't get cast in shows and you do want to be seen more often, or you want to like, I don't know, be in the room sooner because of your job or something. I don't know. There are pros and cons to doing it both ways, or either way. Yeah. So I sign my name on a list, and then I wait for a certain amount of time. And yeah, and then they will call my name and I will wait in a line basically with either they will hand in the headshots and resumes or I will take it in and I'll hand it to them and then I'll sing my thing. They may ask me some questions or whatever. They may just say, thank you for coming in, and I'll leave, and that's basically it. And that's if I'm going in for a singer's call. If I'm going in for a dance call, you basically walk in and do a very similar thing. You write your name on a list, like you come warmed up and prepared, or you warm up in the waiting area, and then they'll take like a group of like 20 people in, and they'll teach them a combo, and they'll have 4 people go at a time and dance the combo like once or twice, and you may like have staggered lines, so 2 people are like downstage and 2 people are upstage, meaning forward and back, and then they'll switch lines for like the second go through, and then they'll take that group out and take the next group in. So yeah, that's basically what like auditioning looks like, what the process looks like. If you get a call back, then like you learn that material, you memorize the lines, you go through like those basic acting things of like, what does this character want, how are they going to get what they want, and what is their relationship to these other people in the scene, and like what do they think about the things that the other people are saying, and just basically like what does it mean to be this human, basically. So yeah,
that's crazy. That sounds like so much. Like that just sounds like a lot. I know you talked about in the beginning you also like to rest, and that's something that you think is a part of you. When you have like a long day auditioning or a long day at work, like how do you find rest through that? Because I'm guessing you're waiting for hours on end. Like it's not like a quick you're in and out type thing.
Yeah. Most of the time you will wait for hours, especially if you're non-union. Yeah, this is a thing that I'm constantly working on. Like, what does rest mean, and what does that look like? There are a lot of times when my brain needs to take a break, and so I will disassociate. So I'll like watch TV or something, or like scroll on my phone. And it's not actually a true restful practice, but rest to me, it really does go back to like going back to class. Like class doesn't feel as much of a chore as it did when I first started doing it. I think there is this hunger in me to be doing the thing that I want to do, and class is a way that I get to do that. And so being able to move my body and learn something new and challenge myself in a way feels like a restful practice. And then there's like true rest where I come back to Jesus and just like sit still and just like be still. And oftentimes it takes like just having days off, like not doing anything, like taking like kind of a true Sabbath of like enjoying the good things that he has, whether that's spending time with friends, enjoying a good meal, going for a walk, enjoying nature, journaling, going to therapy, and like at times those things can become work in a way, but figuring out like, oh, okay, in this moment my body, my soul needs to be still before Jesus. Or like I need to read my Bible and give it truth and scripture, and I'm currently in a season where it's just I don't have a constant rhythm of doing things quite yet, and because I'm just in this liminal space of like what has been and what will be. So yeah, it's a kind of a no man's land almost. Yeah.
Just wandering around.
Just wandering around. Not in the desert, but wandering.
Just wandering.
Yeah.
I know you talked about your relationship with Jesus being a big part of that rest. When did you, I guess, start following Jesus? When did you implement him into your creativity and your art? What has that kind of looked like growing up for you?
Yeah. I grew up in religion. However, I did not have a relationship with Jesus until I was an adult. And I grew up with a lot of different narratives of like what it meant to be a Christian, and I thought it was one way, and then becoming an adult and just like coming to truly have a relationship with Jesus and know him changed a lot for me. And it's been I think I talked about this the last time we were recording, was this idea of a pattern that we go through as believers. And we do this in life too, where it's like we go through different seasons and it's kind of like a wheel or a cycle or a circle. And a lot of times it starts with like this season of new life, and then we go into a season where things become a little bit tougher, and then we hit a wall, and then we have to like die to self in order to like resurrect into new life. So it's like this big cycle. And I have found that Jesus has come alongside me in different seasons, and the way that I have either introduced or like welcomed him into me doing the arts has looked different in every season. I think there was a lot of times where I was waiting on him to like move and do something, and I would get so frustrated because I was like, God, I don't see you moving, I don't see you doing something. And there have been other times where he has like just asked me to pray. Like the decision to move to New York was not an easy one, because I initially told myself I would never do that. I would never go there. It seems too much of a rat race. I don't think I am built for that. I don't think I could ever achieve that. I don't think I am talented enough. I told myself all these like false narratives. And it was a protection. I was too afraid. I didn't want to do it because I was afraid of looking foolish or failing. And what I have come to after praying and submitting it before the Lord, and it was literally, he just had an invitation open for me to just be like, just pray. I'm not asking you to do anything right now. Just pray. Just pray about this idea of you moving. And this was back in October of last year, and so I started praying, and the more I prayed about it, the more peace I felt, and the more open to the idea I was, and the more I realized, no, I actually do want to do this thing, and I think it is a good gift. And I think, not that I think he's going to give it to me, but I think I have to try. And I think I have to put myself out there. And I think I'm going to regret if I don't. And I think there is further growth here that is an invitation. And it comes back to like this principle that is kind of, in a way, it is a worldly principle, but I think it is rooted in such truth of like, it's a journey, not a destination. And a lot of the times, like, the world tells us, you know, that it is a destination, that it is an achievement, that you gotta, you know, climb the ladder to where you want to go. And I think God is trying to like help me unlearn some of that in this, you know. And I think I've heard from either spiritual teachers or group leaders that I've been in their care before, like, that they have spoken such wisdom over what God wants to welcome me into in my craft. And so seeing that and hearing that was really exciting, but I don't think I've yet to fully see it come to fruition. So I think this is like the next step of like, he wants me to trust him, and he wants me to trust myself, and he wants me to step and to step confidently and courageously, and still hold fear in like another hand while I'm holding courage in the other, and do it and do it. And I've prayed, and now like I can step forward and do it with him. So
no, absolutely. I remember you telling me like, oh, I would never, New York's a lot, like, I'm good here, like, it's okay. So then when you randomly, like, on your social media, I saw one day you're like, hey, New York people, I was like, hold on one second. But I think it's such, we put like so many like false narratives in our own head about not like what do I actually want, but like what does God want for me, how does God view me in this situation. And it's so easy. I mean, like, even when our podcast, I was like, oh, I shouldn't ask Rachel. Like, this isn't like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, just the whole, like, this is the journey of what you learn things along the way, like in auditions and in moving across the country, just so many things. So it's so cool. And I'm so excited for you to go to New York. I know it's going to be so good for you. But I also know that you do have a big heart for the people in the 80% of artists that are not our mainstream A-list celebrities we all know about. So can you talk a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about what your heart is there? I also know you have a
Hmm.
podcast for them as
I
well,
do.
but just a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah, what inspired that passion in your podcast?
Yeah. There's so much that inspired that. And I am so behind on like editing episodes and things like that. I might have to take a little break and just like take
Yeah.
a step back from doing that. But I did release like the first episode of the second season, which was, I feel like, really successful. It was really wonderful. But this podcast basically came about because I truly just felt like in the dark, like not being in shows. I was like, I don't know what's going on in this community. Like, I kind of want to know. And part of that is you have to be going to shows and networking, and I was like, that's one way, but I kind of want to know the ins and outs. Like, I kind of want to just sit down and get coffee with all of these people that I love so dearly and just want to know how did they land here, how did they get these jobs, what are they doing now? What is the goal, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, what's a better way than to just like do a podcast? Because I love gabbing. I have the gift of the gab. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. I think also I felt some encouragement because with like class superlatives for my graduating 2021 class for musical theater, we had our superlatives, and the one that I was gifted was most likely to have their own talk show. And I
love
was
it.
like, I like that. I like that a lot. I feel
Yeah.
like I would love to be on a talk show and do that, and interview people and get to know them. And yeah, my heart with like the 87% of artists that they work very hard to do the art that they love so dearly. Our country doesn't quite value arts the way that some other countries do. And so we don't have the proper funding sometimes to either pay artists what they deserve or for them to like be an artist full time, and that's their job. And there are some people in Chicago who do it successfully. There are plenty of people in our country who do it successfully. Oftentimes it is like a larger percent, but 87%, where that number came from is there were 87% of actors didn't make, I think it was like in SAG-AFTRA, which is the film union,
Okay. Yeah.
they didn't make enough money to qualify, like in film, didn't make enough money in film and TV to qualify for healthcare. And when I found that
Oh, wow.
out, yeah, when I found that out, I was just stunned. And this was back in either, I think it was like 2022, 2021. Yeah, just like it was really hard to hear, but I was like, I love hearing about what these people who are just hustling and they have 5 different jobs, and I want to know what are they doing now to get to where they want to go, because we only really get to hear the stories of the 1%, the people that are on top, the people that made it. And we don't get to talk about like the building blocks there. And I think sometimes there can be stuff missed along the way in people's journeys that they can share that is really valuable. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I want to give people a platform, but I also want to know, and I also want to give space to that. And so the first season we did 10 interviews for people who and I had some crossovers with like different performing arts and things like that. So I had
Yeah.
dancers and singers and actors, and I had a friend of mine, coworker, who is in a band, and he was on my podcast. And so there was like, it was like the performing arts bubble essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fun. And then season 2 is all about like these hard-hitting taboo topics, and the first episode was about body inclusivity, and more specifically size inclusivity, because it's such a touchy topic and people don't talk about it enough, and it is very prevalent. With season 2, I just wanted to like talk about the things that were hard, the things that our problems, the things that we can solve, and like how do we solve them? How do we make these things easier and better and more achievable? And yeah, and my school, the university that I went to, my alma mater, they are committed to social justice, and so having that as like my background for my Bachelor of Fine Arts, it has really cultivated this desire to just really see and hear people. And I do feel like having this podcast gives me a way to continue to cultivate that muscle and that desire with people. And just hear them where they're at, and just be with them. So yeah,
that's so fun. I love it. You helped me so much in beginning my podcast because you had
oh
your podcast.
thanks.
So I'm like, we talk about it a little bit. I know you just kind of dealt with a situation that would maybe, let's say, impact that 87% we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I heard about it, I was like, what? That's crazy. So do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about what you're currently going through in your own arts and performance journey?
Yeah, so there's a cabaret space here in Chicago, very well known. It's a piano bar, and I'll just call it out. It's Davenport's Piano Bar and Cabaret. And for years they were like owned and operated by these people who really wanted to cultivate performing artists and give them a space to like perform and do music and things like that. And I did a show with them back in 2023 of my original music, and it was wonderful. I had a wonderful experience. It was definitely a learning curve and a growth moment for me, and I don't know if I'll ever do something like that again, like of music that I've written, but I knew that I would always come back and like do something like a cabaret or something like that. And so I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And leaving Chicago felt like the best time to do that. So I reached out to them, gave them a deposit, signed a contract, and then I found out that they canceled my show through people who had bought tickets. And this happened maybe a week or two ago. And they didn't notify me or like let me know what was going on. I had to find out through a friend that they had canceled all their other shows the previous weekend. Wasn't really sure what was going on. Had no contact. I emailed, I called. Still haven't. Even though they have released public statements, they still didn't contact me,
That's
individually.
So
It's a little unprofessional. It's unprofessional. I'll just call it out. And they should have done better on that if they wanted to cancel their shows. And they have every right to cancel their shows, but they canceled all of their shows. It was crazy. So myself and a bunch of these other artists have been scrambling to find new spaces for our shows, or they just have a canceled show. And it's disheartening because it's under new management. But the other thing that is really disheartening is this place was like a safe haven for artists, especially people in the queer community, and they were posting stuff just like MAGA content of like a hat that had like something like "Make Davenport's Great Again," and then they ended up like deleting it off of their account and kind of backtracking. And I don't know, I think they realized or they didn't realize what space they were taking over in a sense. They were just managing it, and so the backlash that people had wasn't the reception that they wanted. And I am all for people expressing themselves. I just think like they just didn't realize what they were doing. I think too, like it with the association of the current presidential cabinet, I guess is the best word to put it. A lot of people feel hatred and fear and feel very marginalized by the actions that have taken place currently. And so it just doesn't, it feels very dangerous or like hurtful or really harsh, really, just to have a space that once was home for a lot of people and artists,
Yeah.
specifically there's a lot of people in the queer community. It's really disheartening, and it feels unfortunately, it feels really gross to a lot of people. So anyway, my heart goes out to the people who like really, really called that space like just a haven and a home. And
Yeah.
I wasn't as close with people in that space, or that kind of thing, but it was really sad. Yeah, so they canceled my show. I did get my deposit back though. I requested it back through Zelle, and I think maybe they saw like, oh wait, I should give this back.
Yeah.
Legally, I can't keep your money. We have a contract. So I've just tried to do my due diligence. I think I am disappointed. I'm disappointed with how it was handled.
Yeah.
They burn bridges, and I guess they don't want those bridges anymore. And I think they have decided to turn it into a gentleman's club. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I don't really want any association with it anymore. So anyway, well, bygones be bygones. I am not holding anything against them at this point. It's just disappointing. So yeah.
I mean, so fair. Like,
yeah,
you put your time and resources, and I'm sure many other people also put their time and resources into it, and to have that like stripped away when there aren't that many resources to begin with is very disheartening. So it's sad to see that.
Yeah. And I'm looking for a new space to do my show, hopefully to do it at the end of June. I think there's a partnership with a certain theater that I'm hoping will work out, where they have been renting a space through a different theater as well. So I'm hoping it'll make some good connections. I've already made connections with this amazing artist who reached out and was like, hey, would love to, offer you a space. So I don't know. We'll see. I have to circle back around with this person, but they've been super kind in finding out information. And if it's not there, then I think there's another venue that I will use. That's been a really lovely venue. It's just a little expensive, which I don't exactly have all the money in the world, but if I have to do it, I will do it that way. So anyway, yeah.
That's good. I'm glad there's light at the end of the tunnel, I guess.
Yeah,
and
there are options. There are options for sure.
Hard way, to find that. But I know one thing I did want to ask. I remember we talked about this last time we recorded. Is your favorite artist collab? Like, if you could collab with any artist, who would it be and why?
Okay, I talked about two, and I still feel very firm about these two. I would love to. I don't know if I have the musical genius that he has, but I would love to work with Kendrick Lamar. Like, if I could, like, just be a fly on the wall and, like, watch him put together, like, some kind of, like, musical or, like, help direct, I don't know. Like, come alongside him and just, like, learn from his artistic genius. I just think he is so intentional with everything he creates. There's so much thought put behind it. He gained me as a fan immediately when I saw the Super Bowl performance. I was blown away by all of the connections and all of just like these parallels that he drew with all of his music, and I was hooked. I loved it so much. So him, for sure, I think he could do a lot for the artist space. I think for him to, like, I don't know, bring, like, a modern approach to musical theater might be really cool. I mean, we have Hamilton. It's a very...
I was just going to say.
It's a hip-hop
Lamar
piece.
Hamilton.
Yeah. I mean, he would kill in that show. I think that'd be great. I didn't even think of that. I'm thinking, like, create a new piece, like Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, I would, even if I was just like doing the light board, I think that would be amazing. I'm like, I want to be
in
a fly.
the room.
Yeah. So, and then I would love to, I still am like enamored with not only her music itself, but like also the musical she wrote. It's a musical version of The Notebook, the famous film, and Ingrid Michaelson, I think, has a very distinct and beautiful way of writing music that is just, it's real, it's relatable, it tugs at my heartstrings, and I would love to do that for other people. So yeah, I would love to get back into music theory, maybe take a music composition class and get back into keyboarding skills and do all of that and work with those artists. I think it would be phenomenal. I think I would learn and grow a lot from those experiences, but who knows, maybe one day, maybe not one day, maybe I'll just meet them, and that would be incredible too.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe, who knows?
Somebody's gonna know somebody, and next thing you know,
who knows?
Like, guess who I'm working with?
That would be awesome. What a dream come true.
I wanted to know, to wrap up our time here, what is your piece of advice to people who are on that? You said you're in this liminal space, so I think a lot of people find themselves, for whatever reason, you know, you're in a liminal space with moving, but a lot of people find themselves in this liminal space. What advice would you give to them on how to get out of that, but almost how to overcome it and for the better?
Yeah, that's a great question. Navigating the in-betweens of life is definitely hard, and we all go through it. Life is comprised of moments of hurry up and wait, you know, and so I'm in a waiting season, and I think the way that I am combating that is not only honoring the tensions, and this is what I've been telling people in describing this season that I'm in, is I am holding tension of what if I stayed, which I know is not that, I know I'm not going to stay, but like, what if I stayed, this tension of this, and then rubbing up against like, but I have to go, like holding those in this moment, because there's a lot of things about Chicago that make it really hard to leave. Yeah, I know, you know.
I know, yeah. I know.
Yeah, so there's that, and then also just like trying to find what I enjoy in this season, and like being in the moment, and enjoying that, and then also just like allowing myself to have moments of grief and just grieving the things that I'm saying goodbye to. Hopefully not forever, but hopefully it's just a see you later, you know, that I will come back. If I could have it my way, I would go to New York, maybe work on a Broadway contract or two, have a lead dream role, and then book it back to Chicago, find a man who loves Jesus and has a serving heart, and then and then work in theater spaces here and do that. Or you know, maybe God will call me into like seminary work at that point, like going to seminary and then pastoral care at some point or something. So yeah,
who knows? Hands open. Yeah. Or you'll find a man in New York, and then we'll come back to this conversation.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if well, whatever.
Later issue. But
right? Yeah, I'm not worried about that right now. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for coming back and chatting with me. I am so glad we got to talk, catch up, learn more about your next steps, and for people to listen about who you are. You're so important to me, so I'm so glad I get to share it with everybody else. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been such a fun time, and thankfully I didn't go on a rant on religion and my views on it. I got on my soapbox the last time we recorded, and I was thinking about it after the fact, and Alana was all for it, and I was like, I don't know if I liked what I ranted about.
It's okay. You kept it clean. See, that's why we recorded.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. I will talk to you soon.